This is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. This is video pertinent to nutrition series. In this video, I will describe what body mass index is. Body mass index is a formula to calculate normal ranges from being too slim to being too fat, and in a given area associated with economic distribution and storage of goods with chances to be sick or dead, in crimes, accidents, or in diseases, as well as in epidemias, in pandemias, as well as sexually harassed if milk and sugar are the majority as opposed to merits and treated right. That is when persons itemize others and behave like cows or hens, and are actually mimicking, or dogs, mimicking what is being done to animals in real time. And so that is then deemed an area in which obesity, from obesity type 1 to 3, it goes all the way to 3, is associated with coronary artery disease and is associated also with lack of mobility, need for medication, chronic medication, and usually after some time at least bypass or some intervention to open up arteries to restore circulation. So always ask, is it worth it to live whenever you don't have any influence, to live in a given area where persons do not listen at all and glorify death, because that is the problem. The body mass index is calculated by division. It's a simple division in which you will take your first weight and you will divide it into your height in to square root in meters, or you will take your weight in pounds and divide it into your height, but in feet, to square root in both cases, and you will obtain a number between 18 and 40. Then that number between 18 and 40 is a classification of normal versus abnormal weight. Let's review it. Below 18.5 means underweight. 18.5 to 24.9 is in 9 is normal weight. 25 to 29.9 is overweight. 30 to 34.9 is obesity class 1. 35 to 39.9 class 2, and above 40 is obesity class 3. These are again not statistical data, but these are individual applied, contrasted with the statistics data on what is being actively injured or harmed in a given point of time for chronic use and or itemized to rationally impose on us in nutritional requirement. And so remember, if you have craving and luxury for plant-based diet and can change food policy in your area, do so, because that will restore regeneration. And then those numbers, underweight or overweight, do not apply to correlation to disease, well-being, activity, or how long you are going to live, nor apply to fertility. And this is something very important to remember. How is that those numbers are relative also? Of course, you have to take into consideration in those numbers what it is that you look like. If your stature is combined with very thick, dense bone structure, it means that you have, for instance, as a female or as a male, gynecoid, so-called round, large hips. You have, for example, larger or thicker legs, larger head and hands. That is heavier, and it is heavier in a healthy way. So then that weight will express sometimes normal to overweight, and being overweight, for instance, or in lower degrees, will be overestimated. Apart from that quota, that's what I'm talking about. That's one. Second, lean body mass index, those are muscles. Muscles are heavier and denser. So if you are a person who exercises a lot and who has a lot of muscle, then that muscle is sometimes heavy. If that muscle is not visible and covered invisibly, impossible to accommodate in clothes fat, that is only your assumption, because that fat stops being changed into muscle, and you may want to consider reduction, at least in obtaining what feeds into storing fat, which is simple sugar and saturated fat. That, of course, combined with cravings need to be directed into replenishing in a high expenditure of energy and exhaustion, and into also provision of energy based on a dynamic plan. And so let's talk now about it. What is a normal amount of calories per sedentary lifestyle? In a sedentary lifestyle, it depends on what is around and what others consume, and in calories that adds up to no more than 1,200 calories, sometimes less. We often assume that having that in animal food will provide us enough. False. If you have had lots of saturated fat and sugar that was combined with spraying with pesticides and killing insects, you are going to be hungry. And also you will have cravings to have, for example, fillers, or avoid those foods, and those fillers include cigarettes and other things that you stick in your mouth to suppress, to not kill those animals. So not in guilt, but remember, if you have option, plan on plant-based diet that has that minimum 1,200 calories into proportions, which is about 60-70% of it is supposed to be in complex carbohydrates, and the rest, that 40%, it needs to be divided between fats and between proteins. And then those fats, it should not exceed, unless you are very hungry, in percentage more than 10%. So that's how you make then big sandwich if you do not work out, if you sit down. And remember, in seeds in the area, wheat is most common. For example, you see the whole field is wiped out in insects, the whole forest chopped out, and all you see is wheat. Then if you are smart, you deal persons, potato bread instead, or bread made out of corn, if that is less common, because it kills in your area less. You understand? And if you actually have a lot of the other one, you can send it to persons, so export, who have of that less. If we exceeded killing quota here, and the other ones did not on a given product, and that will reduce celiac and gluten intolerance and allow certain food. Now, to add to that, of course, add snacks if you can, and eat whenever you have a chance. But remember, only in most, unless you're very hungry, I, for example, when I was a medical student, I non-stop had to have juice because I was hungry. I was just studying a lot, and so I was non-stop in an impression that I needed to eat something, and so I would drink a lot of orange juice. Normally, for instance, when I was younger, water is an excellent stomach filler, and if you have now sometimes provided calories per so-called complex carbohydrates, remember, a lot of it is starch. That starch does not give energy. It gives you energy, a feeling of being pure and energy to move. However, it does not have that translated into joules, that number, of energy per gram of what you have eaten. And that is because it is supposed to give your stomach space and an impression of satiety, and allow the other ones to absorb and clean out all of the impurities, also give bulk to your excrements, bowel movements. And so with that, you have to have water. And that water generally we underplay, and it is good to carry around and to drink a lot. By the way, for the Woodburn, God bless, hallelujah, it is raining, and so hopefully no fires will burn us. Isn't that awesome? And so I packed up my art. I am thinking maybe I'll go to Salem, because I here for the life of anything cannot find a job or make an income. It's not the first place, not the last one, and it is getting colder, so I think I'm gonna go south, and that is I've sent a lawsuit demand asking for representation inquiry. That never works. It's been actually on my mind now, what is going to happen to those lawyers one day when they realize that in omission they probably have frozen, starved or killed millions, if not in the more in the United States and worldwide. Just in those that I contacted and snubbed me or did not respond to emails. What can you do, you know, if you can sit and grab your Panchita, who is the secretary, by the arse and not work, watching TV as such lawyer, why not, right? Like I said, not only predisposition to memorize qualifies someone as a lawyer. And I'm not talking about Mexico only, I'm talking also about Poland and the United States. Here the whole American Association deserves Nuremberg trials just for what I have seen that they have killed, in omission too. And so, that is the digression. Of course, the topic is nutrition. The question of, what if you still are hungry and you feel full? If you have been in high energy, for instance, physical worker that works in construction, or you have been injured, you look at yourself and you feel, for instance, even if you're older, that you are hungry and you became like a prune, or you shrink like a prune, eat a lot and take it slowly, then take a break and restart. And remember, from what is being killed, it is a potent craving because it's a saturated fat and it's warm. If you replace it with sandwiches and made stuff with saturated fat that are plant-based, you will regain that fat and muscle faster, and all those like droopy skin and wrinkles from overworking and under-eating will be gone. I have seen persons in I say late 50s and 60s who, thanks to having a proper lifestyle, actually look in their 20s or 30s. And so remember, aging is a disease. There is no two theories. There is one that is the insult from the environment, and that insult in the environment, because DNA is a protein, shortens telomeres, but they can regenerate. And so that is how the two sides are right. And it makes sense if we analyze it from the dynamic standpoint of time and causality. Excuse me. What it is else that I would like to add? Cravings. Remember again, there is food, there is craving. Sometimes we get lost because we have things offered. Assume good intentions, however, remember that because of social convenances, sometimes we cannot go and ask for something, will be asked out, even though the person feels like offering. And so that is why we have to keep those convenances and behave in certain ways. And those instincts are sometimes misleading and annoying. So rely on what is available, also rationally first, the most. And then, when you have what is available rationally the most, you can go with whoever and whatever offers based on that mind-to-mind or ecosystems communication, because not always it is what the animals or dogs offer to us that we humans can eat. Sometimes we can, but sometimes, you know, having only apples, for instance, is not enough. And so, what else? Is plant-based diet 1,200 calories enough for a times of intense effort? Well, if we work, we do not crave it, but to recover later on, eat what you crave for, and eat in plentiful ways, and do not substitute. However, if you crave, for instance, cigarettes or alcohol, have it. Have it until you feel replenished, then take a break and restart that food. And never mistake for sex, because deranged by meat industry persons itemize food and will spoil your appetite with curses, demeaning, and also jokes, or try to chase you away from food. Plant-based food, own and eat as much as you can. If you do not find that luxury, go to a park, like some do, and have until you can walk and you can talk as much food as possible. So that is then about 2 to 3. I had periods in which I would have about 6,000 calories even in one day, and then decrease on that. During effort we eat less, that is normal too.